Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and thanks so much for the opportunity to come and share my mentorship experience. I am going to speak. I do not have slides. I wanted to do more of a heart-to-heart talk, and I will start by discussing this from a mentee perspective, and then I'll use the last few minutes of my time to discuss uh, my experience as a mentor. And as been mentioned in the introduction, I do mentoring in different uh, groups, and I'll be sharing some of that as I go along. So, from the perspective, I would like to start by saying that as a mentee, because as a mentor, I am also a mentee to uh, in different areas. And as a mentee, I learned that it's very important to be intentional. Before you go out to look for a mentor, you must have a starting point. It's important to have a good idea of where you want to go, and very important to have this written down. And in addition to that, it's very important to be intentional as you start your mentorship journey. And I'll give a personal example. When I first got introduced to implementation science research, I knew this was the path that I wanted to follow in my career as a person who is doing HIV programming work. I found the discipline very relevant to my day-to-day work. So after being introduced to this through the Afiabora Fellowship, I came back and immediately Googled to look around and see who is in Uganda is doing implementation science research, because I had made up my mind that this is what I wanted to pursue as my research career. So I found out that one of my old professors had a D43 grant. I wrote to him a very long email, explained my journey, how I've been introduced to implementation science research, and asked for an appointment. When he gave me the opportunity to meet him, I shared my passion and what I wanted to do, and where I wanted to be 5 years from now. Through that, I got an opportunity for further training in implementation science research with the Makerere Implementation Science Project, which later linked me to the AHISA, which is the Adolescent HIV Implementation Science Alliance. And through that, again, I got another implementation science training opportunity through the High IR, which is a training program in implementation science research at the Washington University. And now, through that deliberate effort, I have also been asked to be a faculty for the African chapter of the High IR program. So as a mentee, I learned that you must have a starting point. You should be able to know where you want to go before you identify or go out to look for a mentor, and to be intentional at looking out for opportunities that are going to help you to move in the direction you want to go to. And very important, as a mentee, it's very good for you to understand that you're going to undergo a learning curve. I have met some people who really want to grow, but at the same time, they are not humble enough to go through a learning curve. As you try to mentor them, the attitude of learning is not very positive. So I learned early that as a mentee, it's important to allow yourself to undergo a learning curve, and you should be able to determine to learn as much as possible. And this is going to require you to volunteer in many areas, because as you do so, you are getting opportunities to acquire more skills, to be more exposed, to get more collaboration. And sometimes the work that you're going to do in this learning curve is going to be a lot of pro bono work. But if you focus on what do I have to get out of this, what is the monetary gain, what am I gaining from this process, and you don't focus so much on what am I learning from this experience, you can easily miss the point. So when you work hard, when you're allowed to volunteer, when you're allowed to learn, when you're allowed to do sometimes what might be considered as menial jobs, taking minutes in meetings, it allows you to learn and to acquire various skills that will be very helpful and bring the money that you might want, bring the collaborations that you might want, but you must start from a very humble perspective and allow yourself to go through the learning curve. The other aspect I also wanted to mention from the mentee perspective before I go to the mentorship point of view is to determine what skills you want to acquire before you go out to identify a mentor. And why is this important? Because sometimes when you come to meetings like this and you're hearing about the importance of a mentor, the first thing that you'll do is to go out and look for someone to mentor you. But if you don't take a step back to understand what skills what you want to get out of this mentorship process, you could easily end up with the wrong mentor. So you must understand what skills do you want to acquire, in what direction do you want to grow, and then ask the second question should be, who then is going to help me reach that goal? So doing this will help you to avoid a situation where you've bumped into people, asked them to be your mentors, and now you realize that they actually don't meet your mentorship need. So very important is that you must understand what you want to get out of the mentorship process before you approach anybody. And as one of the speakers mentioned, you should also be able to know when it's time to explore a little bit more and form new collaborations and set new goals. And that sometimes might require that you now need to move on to another mentor. So you should be able to plan right from the start with your mentor how long this journey is going to be. And again, this was already mentioned that the mentorship process is not finite, infinite. It should have a time limit with very clear goals. So you should be very honest with yourself and bold enough to say, you know what, it's time for me to move on. I think I have been able to achieve my goals here, and I need to identify a new mentor. And the last point before I move on to the mentorship aspect is that you should intentionally keep in touch with your mentors. And this could be even when you've moved on. It's important to share periodic progress because you could need, as you go along and as you continue to grow, you might want to come back to a previous mentor. So keeping in touch, even with simple updates like 3 bullets on where you are, is very important. So I'll briefly now speak to what I've been able to learn as a mentor. I totally agree that the mentee should look out for the mentor, but I've also come to understand that there are times as a mentor, there are times when you'll be able to identify mentees because you have seen potential in this person and you realize that if you brought them on board, worked with them or worked with them for a period in a particular area, it's going to uplift them, it's going to cause them to grow. And again, I want to pause here and share an example. At the Ministry of Health, we have many meetings, and about 2 years ago, there was this young doctor who kept texting me when he would find an interesting journal. He would send it to me and say, have you seen this journal? Have you seen this new evidence? And I realized that this young doctor was very passionate about learning. So I opened up myself to be a mentor to him. And I was able to mentor him for 2 years without meeting him face to face.